Part, Season 1, Episode 3.
There it is.
Yes.
There it is.
Sost.
Sost.
Yeah. Who's gonna?
This guy's
What's
tres.
Tres? I didn't hear.
Yeah, listen.
Malcolm, do you have one or no?
No, he doesn't.
Nothing.
Keep it at 3.
I need you to learn Mandarin.
Yeah, Mandarin.
Mandarin. Learn it.
Guys, I'm excited again, and I'm excited today's episode. I love this topic here. Okay, but again,
most people do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Before we get there, today's episode it is sponsored by our guy John Will, Willpower Photos, run and owned by John Will, local photographer and videographer. John has almost a decade experience in media creation. Check out his website at willpowerphotos.net or follow him at willpowerphotos on Instagram. John is our guy. He's the one that does all of this here, and we are definitely blessed to have him. So guys, a little cheers for Willpower Photos.
Willpower Photos.
With the new mug.
Hey guys, did you see the new mugs? I had Alam. We had Alam create or put this together, and he only put it on one side. So sorry about that.
Wow.
Man,
Somebody.
come on.
Thank you, Jim.
Hey GM, thank you.
Stepping up
Thank you.
to the plate. You gotta love it.
I love it. So, in continuing with breaking down our mantra, transforming individuals to be resilient, motivated, and skilled. Last week we talked about being resilience. I like that episode. And today we are talking about motivation or being motivated, right? So, like I said, I'm excited about this. I think that's a big part of life and career. So we'll break that down and really how each one of us looks at what being motivated or motivation is. So I think we'll start out like we started everything. What does motivation mean to you? And Malcolm, you want to... Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I messed up, This is all part of the journey here. Okay, we will talk our episode, our quote of the episode brought to you by Malcolm.
Mr. Q.
Mr. Q.
Hey, I'm known by that.
You are
Mr. Q.
Sorry.
I
apologize, guys.
Yeah, so this one's a very simple one. Not a lot to it, but if you really break it down, it could be deep, right? And it's hey, be motivated by the fear of being average.
I love it.
Right? And so if you really think about that, everyone is motivated by wanting to do well and be better, right? But when you talk about average or being average, everyone probably defines that a little different. But you write that down, viewers, and when you think about that, you ask yourself, hey, what does being average for you mean? And what is what's another level of what's next to being average, all right? And so, to your question, Yanni, you said, hey, what does motivation or being motivated mean?
Yeah. Before I get there again, Claudia hates this part, but we're gonna set what the dictionary says, right? And we'll always break it down, right?
Break it down.
So the dictionary says motivation is the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way, the general desire or willingness of someone to do something. So that's motivation. Again, that's when you read on, in the dictionary, that's what pops up. But again, it has to be something to you, and that's the most important part of it, obviously, what it means to you and how you use that to better your career or your personal life. So each one of us, again, we'll start out with you, Mal. What does motivation mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it means hey, what keeps one continuing to stay on that daily grind or that hustle, whether it's career oriented or personal oriented. And it's the one thing, or it could be maybe more than one thing, that helps you not lose confidence, right? And for everyone looks for motivation from different places. For me, I think that motivation word derives back to the word motive. And when they talk about how does somebody get it, right, or what helps them stay motivated, you've really got to find out deep down inside what helps you. What are you doing it for? Right? What are you waking up every day, and what helps you remember not to be average when it's so easy to be average, right? And for me, I mean, that's what it means. It means finding that inner reason to why you keep moving forward, right? Regardless of what's happening day to day.
Who wants?
Yeah, I'll take that next, man. Hey, for me, motivation. I think I'd like to think that for me, I learned it really early because, I guess a little rough background. I'm not born here in the U.S. Right? Came here from Ethiopia, and so for us,
Cloudy was the only one born.
Cloudy,
Whoa,
born in DC.
born in
There it
DC.
is. There it is. Right.
Yeah.
So for me, I got to see it. I got to see it early. Back then, I didn't know it was what it is today. Because knowing what I know now, having my own family, all this other stuff, seeing my mom wanting better for us than she had, right? I think that was the fuel. To me, that represents motivation because, hey, coming from Ethiopia to here, you hear about the American dream, the this, the that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's something she never had, right?
Yeah.
So for her fuel was to always make sure that we always were in a better position. That's my older sister, myself, and my younger sister, than she ever had. And so seeing her go through the grind and seeing her kind of elevate herself to a point where we are in a better situation than she ever was at our age. I think to me that is my definition, or if you will, my insight into what motivation is, and that is sacrificing and wanting more for my kids than I have for myself. So hey, that's the way I would define it. Obviously, I can go into it a lot more deep, but on the surface level, that's what I would define it as.
You know what? I forgot to say this as well. A lot has changed in your life since the last time we recorded.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Right? And this kind of goes into, right?
Mm.
So, Alan, here's another. We cheers a lot, but we're going to keep sharing.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Yes.
Alan,
Tell us the news.
tell us the news. Come on.
Hey, fortunate enough to welcome my new daughter. She's healthy and can be. Born January 30th.
Wow.
Her name is obviously, Lily Alea. So obviously, right? So very excited about that.
Who's met Lily? I've met her.
You did.
Have you met her?
Yes, I met her.
Claudia, have you met her?
Miss Frescas has met her.
Correct.
So she spoke.
And
she
I'll
spoke.
tell him my reason why.
And the reason why, he actually did the right thing. He did give me a call and said, hey, I would love to come meet her, but I'm sick and I cannot. And I said, hey, stay away. Stay
Yes,
away.
I did not.
Told him
That's
stay
common
away.
practice.
Yeah, stay away. He was
Yeah.
sick, so that's why he hasn't seen her yet. But he will.
Congratulations.
Hey, congrats. Congrats.
Yanni's always trying to put me on the spot.
That's fine.
That's one on
I look forward to that every
He
time.
looks
I look
forward
forward to
When
that.
Yanni does something good, he makes sure he lets you know what he did.
Yeah. He's trying.
So, I'll see how it is.
It's all good, but you're right though. You're sick, man, so you can't see her when you're sick.
So I'll start at the next. I guess what motivation means to me. To be honest, it's really what gets you through the bullshit. Like whatever you're gonna be doing in life is gonna be BS and bullshit, all that. So what or how gets you through the bullshit, and that is what motivation means to me. Because I think, and it's got to be for me. I think it's got to be daily or consistently. But what gets you through those dark days? What gets you through the bullshit? So
it's very good.
Simple as that for me. Claude?
I mean, motivation for me is very similar. I mean, at different stages of your career, motivation does adapt and change, but at the end of the day, the core still stays the same. And a lot of it is, piggyback off what AGM said, is making sure that you're able to provide a better circumstance for yourself and your family than you had previously.
Yep.
And doing the necessary things to make sure that it doesn't happen. And sometimes things don't go the right way, but you got to remember that goal that you want and what you want to accomplish, and developing that plan to get there and staying focused with it. So motivation to me, I mean, it's everybody different levels, like I said earlier, and if you hone in and focus on what your goal is at the end of the day, and it should be big enough that it impacts you in a way to not just sit there and let things happen to you, but you go out there and make things happen. You show up
and not want to give up.
Exactly.
And I think everybody's motivated by different things.
Correct.
Like, I mean, everybody has
money,
whether money, family,
time off, vacation, events, travel. I mean, there's so many different ways people are motivated and the impact it has on them.
What do you guys think about like the like the concept or just the idea of people being motivated by money? Like, you know, when people think of sales jobs and whatnot, that's something that, you know, when you're, I think a lot of people get into sales, not necessarily, again, money is a factor.
Yeah.
Right. What do you guys? What's your thoughts on like being motivated by money?
I don't think it's money alone that people are motivated by. To your point, it's the vehicle that gets you what you want. It's the vehicle that eliminates that which you don't have, and so on and so forth. So when we say money, hey, that's just, I guess, speaking for myself and others that I know, it's what does that provide you?
The life,
right?
yeah.
The lifestyle
sure.
that it provides you, the ability for it to sort of eliminate, you know, the concerns and the worries that we have in life, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what that represents. It's not money itself, because we can, you know.
When you were younger, did you would you say you were motivated by money? Like I mean, ultimately you want that life, but like, you know, making that money or getting to a salary or you know, a range of what you're making.
I feel like there's a certain level you start to evolve.
Yeah, that's true.
When you're in your sales career, because when you first start out, that's what your goal is.
Yeah.
Mentally, you think, I just want to make the most money. I don't care what it is. I'm going to do it. At the end of the day, that's only going to sustain you so much, that enthusiasm. You got to make sure you believe in what you're selling. That's where that passion comes in, and the motivation then also complements that at the same time, where you're able to make that money and you're able to set those goals and accomplish it. But if it's just money, you're willing to do anything, then all of a sudden you don't believe in the product, or different things are not going your way, or you know, you don't even own the product or different things. That's a problem. You get what I mean? And then you start to realize, like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm standing behind a brand that I'm proud of, you know, at the end of the day, and that gets you up in the morning, that you want to make sure that you're still doing that. You know what I mean? And it may not be the product or just the service that it provides, or the impact it's going to have to your customer base, and what it's going to provide. And I feel like once you have that, it changes, it morphs your beliefs in just making money by itself, because then when you have that, the money's going to come. I promise you, the money's going to come.
I mean, I'm a firm believer, especially in art and in most sales organizations, you have to be motivated by something other than the money, because sometimes it might take you a little longer to see that money. And then when you hit that, you know, when you hit that level where the money does come in, then to your point, Claudio, you got to find out, well, you're going to, you know, the money comes in, it either provides, right, if it provides something other than an actual reward, an actual goal, but you're going to be tested on, all right, what's your next motivation? If you're not motivated going into that, you know, that field, it's going to be like, I think that's why people drift, right? And there's a lot of people that they're not working with a lot of purpose, right? And the motivation, I think, definitely needs to be big. I think it needs to be long term, right? And so when the money does come, or when whatever the reward of the money is there, you gotta because you gotta keep finding ways to motivate yourself. I think it's something that needs to be, you know, we talked about it daily, right? So it does help you through all the distractions and all the negativity that's going to continue to come.
For sure.
Would you say, like, somebody viewing this or listening to this, if they're right now they're just thinking, like, well, no, I want to be motivated by money, or that's what my motivation is, and if they haven't got to that level, is that something bad, or I think it has to just evolve? It has to evolve naturally, or
because
they have to look past that.
Well, you know, motivation usually leads to what people will call freedom or more options or choices. But I think it's extreme. It's like not wanting. If you're not wanting to confront that, well, what's really going to bring more time with the kids, right? Or what's going to give you the ability to go visit family, or anything like that. To me, I don't know if you want to define it by money, but that's very, very important. So whether you're motivated by money or not, call it what you want, but it's going to be that's you know that is the means to how you get to, you know, whatever you're looking to get. So I think it's extremely important, and I don't think people should to not talk about it. Right? I think they should. Claude, you talk a lot about putting a plan. You know, there's a number. You set the number, and you can reverse engineer it, but you'll see people's motivation, and people that are really motivated, they keep on going because it's not the money they're after, right? The money's just it's coming, but they're not having to find new motivations over and over because, I mean, it's I don't think you can have enough of it, right? So, I mean, I think it's important. Yeah, I think it's extremely important.
So I think it is, but I think it needs to be tied to something, right? So money itself.
So my question is,
it's mainly like the result of the money.
Yeah,
exactly.
So like what you gotta go deeper. So what do you want to accomplish with this money? When you have it, what are you gonna do with it? And that's when.
Did you know that when you were younger? To you,
No.
it was money.
No.
I mean, you evolved, right? Because then you got deeper.
Yeah, as you start realizing what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish, of course, like, hey, if I want to go travel, like to me, I love to travel.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to do. That's something my wife and I love to do. So I got to figure out a way. How am I going to accomplish that and still be productive, get the results? Oh yeah, I remember I went to this trip. It was fun. did this. I want to do the same thing. So guess what? I'm motivated and I'm going to do the steps that I need to do to experience it again.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out what motivates whoever. And some people are different, but at the end of the day, yes, money's the outcome of what's going to happen once you're motivated with sales, obviously.
Yeah.
But that can't be the sole thing that just motivates you. I mean, you could say it is, but ultimately it's leading to one of the other things that we've been talking about.
And to kind of like bring it all together, I mean, to real life example here, right? So when you think about when I had my sales job when I was in college, right? Money gave me the ability to say, okay, I want to make sure that my rent is paid. And it was a ridiculous amount of rent. You remember, Claude? It was like $600 a month, $700, whatever.
Whoa.
Ridiculous.
Right? We thought that was a lot.
Yeah, and we thought that was a lot, right?
Split that.
Oh my gosh, you got to come in 300. I got all that stuff.
That's the thing.
So yeah, a couple of perspective, right?
Yeah.
So our fuel to make money was to make sure that bill was paid, and then to make sure that every weekend we can host a party. I mean, you get what I'm saying? So there was a point where if our vision was much bigger than that moment or that whatever, then I think our motivation factor would have been a lot bigger, right? We would have been, hey, had I known what I know today, that years later I'm going to be, obviously starting a foundation, growing a family, this, that, and the other. Maybe I would have worked a little bit. Actually, no, I would have absolutely worked harder.
Yeah.
Right?
About 2009, just
10 years ago, right? We're talking, 10, 11
years ago.
11, 12 years ago. Right, our motivation was purely just to make sure that our rent was paid, and we had fun during the weekend.
Yeah.
Right, but if your vision was bigger than that, if you tied it to something much grander than that, for me personally, I can say that it would have fueled me to work harder and not just chase, if you will, the quote unquote money.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
You got something to add?
No, I was gonna say what. So you looked at back in 2009 what the motivation was, because we have a lot of different viewers, right? What helps somebody to see them, to find what they feel like their motivation is going to be 10 years from now?
I think it's a gradual, like as you grow, and that's when you hit that about the gradual, because I don't think somebody listening to this or watching this should be, if their motivation is money, I don't think they should be like, oh man, we're not saying it's bad. I think that's at that point that is your motivation. I think what I'm getting at is ultimately the motivation of what you see on the forefront is money, but really, if you really like dig down, it's really not money. It's the life that you want, or like the perception of you know, when you're young, going out to, being able to buy a table, status. It could be
recognition,
everything. Exactly.
And sometimes people just like to compete. I want to make sure I beat all of them and everything.
Which is okay. It's whatever fuels, and I don't think gradually as you grow, that changes and your perception changes and whatnot, and that kind of goes to it. But again, if you wake up in the morning and you're motivated by money and making that money, by all means, that's what it is. And you could do more in terms of digging down in terms of what that means to you. But there's a bad connotation with like money, right? Money is the root of all evil, all that. By all means, no, it's not. And there's a level of exactly, so it's.
One of the things we all have in common, we came from a very special school, right? We look at it, and that was a nonprofit, but we was all exposed to, the people that helped run that school, right? Had a level of, financial, wealth, but so coming from that school, I realized, hey, if you get to a specific level, and you can, it's the more people you can help.
Yeah.
Right. And
Exactly.
that's, you got to find out what it is for you. But I've just, in the past 10 years, I've realized that I think sometimes people underestimate how important it is. Right.
You want money?
Yeah, the whole money thing. I'm not saying be motivated by that, guys. That's not, like, you got Gary Vee out there. Our viewers know Gary Vee. Gary Vee, he'll say, hey, if you love what you do, you could be okay with a specific number, right? I think he throws out like 40 grand. There's some other guys that saying, well, then you're just thinking about yourself, right? Because, and that's what we talked about on the way over here. Man, we got to start thinking bigger, right? I'm just saying, 10 years ago, we weren't thinking that way, right? Because we were at a different perspective. But really want to challenge you guys. Hey, how do you think bigger to have? Maybe look at your motivations, and how do you get to something that maybe you 10 years from now can kind of appreciate a little bit more.
We can talk about this for hours, to be honest with you. But I think money is a big it's a big thing that's in the world, and whatever side you're on, sometimes it's looked at negatively, positively, or whatever. But I just want to kind of get your thoughts. I guess moving forward, it's specifically like, let's talk about a time in your life where where you really had to dig deep for motivation, or how you were able to use motivation to overcome a situation in your life, whether it be personal, and again, personal or business or sales, industry, whatever case may be. Just we can kind of maybe touch on that, just kind of give, because it happens to everybody, man. It happens to everybody that you see. So, Claude, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. I mean, of course, when you transition to a different role in sales, so there's different levels of sales. There's retail, there's inside sales, there's outside sales. So you're my transition from retail, being in that, moving up, doing everything, you know how to handle your customer, whatnot, all that kind of stuff. Now you transition to B2B outside sales. You're cold calling, you're knocking on the doors, you have just a territory, and you got to go out there. When motivation comes in, you got to have peers that think the same as you. You got to surround yourself with people that want to be better at the same day, because sometimes the full motivation some days aren't going to be there. But you got to have that person that's accountable, that you can call. There used to be, he was all the way in Missouri. I met him in a training, and we started together. His name was Brett, and we had this mantra that we always said to each other, like, hey, make sure you show up and blow up. No matter, but you have to show up and blow up. And we had a whole little handshake, and we did it. And then every time he would call, he'll be like, Claudio, come on. I'll say it to him, vice versa, we'll say it. And we'll just get that energy again where, okay, we got our plan, we know what we need to do, we just got to show up. Because a lot of the times you hear a couple of no's, and then you're like, man, I don't know about this, it's not working or whatever. But you got to keep it going, and then reminding yourself of those wins too. That's another big one, of reminding yourself, like, hey, I did this already here.
That's huge.
And you got to remind yourself, because you got to keep that in mind. So.
That's huge. Yeah. I think for me, one that I can kind of crystal clear kind of recall is when I transitioned careers, and I look, from a motivation level, I would like to say that, if I had to be honest, I'd like to say there was a part of me that was trying to stay motivated, but the fear of failure was pretty real. And so it's crazy you said that, Claude, because it was looking back at, hey, how far I've come, right? And my motivation came from just the upside of, hey, I guess the potential, right? And I'm looking at, hey, there's the potential to be successful, or there's so much more potential I haven't tapped into, that I said, hey, I had to stay focused on that to really motivate myself into a career that I didn't know anyone there, right? Oh, I knew two people there, but
how long ago was this?
This was 8 years ago.
So you're transitioning from like retail to
the vacation ownership industry. Yeah. But the other big thing that helped was what Claudio said. The motivation of who I had around me, right? And with you and Chris, right? You and Chris. So I think that's key. because it's tough if you're thinking that you're gonna do anything alone, or
Right.
if you feel like you're alone. I think the fear becomes so much more magnified.
Right.
And if you always got to feel like you can reach out to maybe even somebody that you haven't reached out to in a while, right? That you can ask for some level of recommendation or guidance or advice. But that's what I recall. That I think I really had to tap into my motivation.
Yeah. I got, I think, a couple of stories in terms of like just in my life. One in particular, I was mentioning to you earlier, but this was probably the second year I started real estate. And with real estate, it's when you start out initially, again, the first thing that you want to do first out, obviously, is reach out to everybody that you know and friends and family. And there's a level of when you start something like that, they need to see you. There's going to be some people that are die hard for you initially, but there's going to be other people that they need to see you succeed first, which is okay. That's part of life. But anyway, so that led me to, then you are forced to make sure that you are just reaching out and making cold calls and all of those things. And again, second year and whatnot, and it was still up and down. But at that point, I read a book called Go for No. And that it changed my perception, because before then I was like, man, when I was making those calls, when I was hearing no, I thought I was doing something wrong, or something was wrong with me. Right. That perception, that book changed my perception of, like it's part of the process, right? So I used that, and I used that. I took a picture. I actually had the book, right? I took a picture, and of the book, the front of the book, and I posted it right in front and right of where I make my calls. And as I was making those calls, and as I was hearing those no's, I had people curse at me, hang up. I had people that just, as soon as I said the first word, they would hang up. That was there in front of me, like literally in front of me. And so that motivation of just go for no is what kind of kept me going. And at that part, I had to it was 2 hours of cold calls or whatever type of sales calls. So, believe me, if anybody that's made cold calls, after about 15 minutes, man, you're just like what is going on? Like this is not for me. So that itself kind of helped me just kind of focus, go for no. And ultimately you do that, and you just not even thinking, not putting any emotions to it. You go for no, you're going to get a yes. It might take the whole 2 hours or it might be, pretty quick. But that was one story. And the second story, man, is more of, and this lead was brought to by a cold call where I made, it's called circle prospecting, where you're making calls in the neighborhood asking if they wanted to sell. And this lady, I set an appointment, I met her, and she just had, so I sat down with her, and older lady, her husband just passed away. They were living in this neighborhood, and she just wanted to sell and move closer to her family. And I was able to come in there and talk with her and just kind of explain to her and just kind of be patient with her. And we went through the process, and we were able to get their home sold, and she was able to move out and go to South Carolina. But she sent me a letter, and I still had that posted, and she just said, listen, I totally appreciate you. You didn't just sell my home, you brought me closer to my family. And it broke my heart when I was talking to her, because this was the home that her and her husband had lived in for 30 plus years. Wow. And it was something that meant a lot. It was just a home. And so in that letter, she just broke it down and just, it was very emotional. But that was a motivating factor, because it shows you that what I was doing, what we were doing, what we're doing now, it's more than just selling houses or helping people. It's building, helping people get to the next stage of life. In her situation, it was the motivation of like selling this home and getting down to, South Carolina, where she's only like 5 miles from her grandchildren and her, her son and daughter and all that. So that motivation of like, what, this is why we're doing what I'm doing or what we're doing. So that's what, again, when I come back to it, that's what gets you through the bullshit. Because, there's people that you're going to help. So that's specific stories in my life where those are important. And that story has helped me kind of continue and realize that it's not just about me. What we're doing is much more than, selling homes and things of that sort.
For sure. I mean, that is obviously the factor, if you look at it, let me ask you this. If you were looking at her as a commission and just your next paycheck, would you have been as motivated to make sure she got it if you didn't know what you know now?
No, and ultimately when you look at it though, you know, if you were just motivated by money, right, or just, then ultimately you're gonna give up. You're gonna give up quicker.
For sure.
But when you're talking about a older lady that needed to sell her home and really wanted to get down, because I mean, when you just look at it like life, I mean, this is a lady that was married for over 40 years.
Yeah.
Just lost a few months ago, lost her husband, and she just wanted to be, she wanted to be close. You know, imagine, you know, you moved down from Tennessee, and you just posted the other day being in this area help you to relate to and be closer to your family members and all that. It's big when you look at it as in the human aspect of it. It really touches you and motivates you to like be on your game and understand that, you know, what you do, and you got to be on your top of your game, because what you do affects other people. Sure. If we weren't able to sell our home and get what she needed, get down there. And ultimately, like, you know, that's you meet people like that was just, you know, pure-hearted and just once, you know, that they're in a sense a little broken-hearted because of what they went through, and they just want this one thing, and you're there to help them guide that, and you're a big part of that.
Yep.
You know, so, and that happened through a cold call. Yeah. You know, it's. So
hey, I'm gonna go a little semi, not necessarily off script, but a very unorthodox route as far as motivation for me. As I was thinking, sitting here, listening to the different stories, it made me dig deep back to right before I turned 18. Right, so you know, obviously we came out here, didn't know a lick of English, didn't know, you know, a word we didn't know anything. Hello, nothing, right? We knew nothing. So, you know, they say that the brain at a younger age, obviously, it can learn things much, much faster. So now think about it. My mom, the only language that she knew, the only language that she understood was Amharic, and obviously all the dialects that come with it. She had absolutely zero idea what English was. She couldn't put two sentences together when we first moved out here. So fast forward to us being here for several years. She had a big motivating factor. Right before I turned 18, we sat down, and she was like, "Hey, I need to become a U.S. citizen before you turn 18." I didn't understand why. I was like, "I don't know why. What's the big whatever? And we're sitting there and we're talking. She goes, and the one thing that she said to me, and it resonates to this day, is because she goes, when you fill out applications, right, when you turn 18 and you fill out job applications or college applications, I want to make sure that you can mark I'm a U.S. citizen, right?" And so for her, it took a lot for her to get that accomplished, right? Because she saw something I didn't back then. I didn't really think big of it. I just
and if they're not familiar with it, as soon as she turns a U.S. citizen, anybody under 18,
anybody that's under 18, correct,
would automatically be a U.S. citizen.
Correct. Anybody that's under 18 would automatically become a U.S. citizen.
That's in terms of her son or daughter.
Her son or daughter, whatever the case may be. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. So I'm thinking to myself, why is she making this a big deal? Like, why? Like, take your time. We'll get it. Trust me, I understand. There's a lot of information that you have to go through. But fast forward to when she went through all that, understood it enough to pass the test, and then she, you know, on that day, I wanted to make sure I was there. It was August, right? The August, like towards the end of August, and my birthday was in October, obviously. So literally like a month and a day or so before I turned 18, and I wanted to make sure I was there, right? Because this is a huge accomplishment, and so it goes to show that for her motivating factor, it wasn't money. Right, it wasn't this. It was just for her to know that her son, who was getting ready to turn 18 because of her, can go ahead and say that he was a U.S. citizen. Right, so that right there for me is what I continue to use day in and day out to make sure not only do I provide for my direct family, but make sure that I set up for her too. Right, because I owe her everything.
Absolutely.
Right, I mean that is everything. Right, so when we talk about why do we grind, why do we hustle, why do we work so hard, hey, that's the motivating factor for me, and that's my story behind motivation is that. And you let that sit there, and every time you think about giving up, or every time you think about, you know, throwing the towel in, or thinking that this next call is not that important, or you're thinking that I'm just going to pacify this client, or whatever the case may be because I got another one, hey, you know, those are the things that I tell myself every day is, had she not studied as hard as she did, where would I be today? All right, so I mean, that's just
so that you know, when I hear that story, maybe you add a who to your motivation, right? And if there's a who there, then maybe you dig a lot deeper,
For sure.
right? Maybe
sure.
you think a little different, or whatever field you're in,
For sure.
you realize that hey, it's so much bigger, right, than you are. You know, I mean, you just had a newborn,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, like, can you think bigger and can you add a who to it? That's pretty impactful, brother.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's get to like the practical part of it as well. Again, we want to make sure we're giving you, in essence, you know, that our stories in that, but also like how we specifically, and each one of us is different, and how we make sure that we are motivated. How, what the strategies or the advice or recommendations. Let's talk about that. And I'll start out myself really. For me, I've learned that I think it goes back to the more I feel connected, the more I feel like I can get through anything. Like in terms of the more I know that people are going through the same things, this and that, it motivates me. Like because sometimes when you are not, you know, surrounding yourself with the same like-minded people or not seeking things out, you feel like you're on an island. Like, oh man, and you're gonna be less motivated, and you feel like it's you, and you know it's not gonna help you. So ultimately, to be honest, reading books has helped me a lot. It really has, and it's, you have to constantly be in a state of getting better. But that ultimately, the one thing that I've seen when I've read so many books or read about people that have succeeded is it's a common denominator. There'll always be times there's not going to be a time where you're not going to have to seek out motivation. Okay, at every level, right? At every level, you have to find your way to be motivated. So I think reading books has helped me, and just podcasts as well or videos. It's just you have to every single day or whatever I guess plan that you have, but monthly you have to seek those out. For me, monthly I have to at least read at least one book a month, if not two, podcasts and things of that sort. When you put yourself in those positions, I think it will ultimately help you stay motivated. So again, it might sound cliche and we talk about it, but reading books, staying in the game in that aspect of it, really I think puts you in a light of being connected and understanding that there's other people going through the same thing, and you just have to get past it, you know. So that's again one practical thing that I've used to continue to stay motivated.
Yeah, no, if I was to jump in on staying motivated, Malcolm would know this, who I'm talking about, Mark Latham, you know, rest in peace.
Yeah.
He was one of a good trainer.
One of the best trainers to come across.
Yeah, that I had on a personal level, day in, day out, that helped me with my career into the vacation ownership space. And a lot of the things we would have discussions afterwards and saying like, you know, if you were to go back knowing what you know now, what would you do? Or what is this? And one of the things that he always broke down was like, listen, just do a journal. And now with the technology you have, you could do video journal. You don't have to write it down. Just do like a quick 5-minute video journal of what you did today, like what you were successful with, what you were excited about.
Me too. Yeah, that's a good one.
And once I did that, from then on, it's when you get those days where you're like, man, it's not going, you go back to it, you watch it, and you're watching yourself.
Because you forget.
Yeah.
You forget.
And it's just a big impact on motivation and staying motivated. And that's an easy way to stay accountable with it, but you got to do it yourself. That's something you can control and something you could do.
I never
thought of that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, that video journey, what does it journal? Right?
Yes, I mean you can call it whatever you want, but
so
you literally you're talking to yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
In a way where you're saying like, hey, this is what I worked on today. This is what was good. When I was talking to these people, they told me this, and these were the questions I asked. Or, hey, this is what I did. And then when you see yourself explaining it, oh, and I closed this deal and it was this much and this, but the impact I had was this. And you watch it again, you're like, man, there was so much this, and then you just remind yourself, and you get the juices going again, and you're like, I got this. I did it before, I can do it again.
How often did you watch it? Like, how often did you go back?
So,
and watch
I mean, in the beginning, literally, I did almost for like 2 months straight in the beginning of doing this, because when you're doing vacation ownership, you literally have 2 hours to sell somebody.
Yep. Yes.
It's a hard sell. It really is a hard sell. And it's a different sell from B2B. B2B, you have to go find your prospect and all this. There's no find. You can't control that.
Yeah.
Like, you get what gets in front of you, and you got to make it happen.
Yep.
And so with that, you got to understand different levels of the brain. You know, they're coming in different perspective, and you got to adapt. And the only way you can get better is working on your craft.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good one. I like that. I like
Me
that.
too.
So
I like that. I mean, hey, I can't even top that, but one thing I think that is underestimated as well is meditation, right? So just having that moment of silence, whether it be 15, 20 minutes a day, whatever you can set aside time. I found myself that anytime I do that, it kind of allows you to clear your head, to clear your mind, and allows you to truly just like clear everything. Like, you know, there's an app that I use that allows me to do that, and it truly is an amazing thing because it truly helps you focus big time, right? So you see all these people that are like, you know, when we talk about the athletes of the world, this, that, and the other, they stay focused on one area and they're just hardcore thinking about one thing. That, to me, I never understood what the reason was for that, but it was really just to clear their head. Because so many times in sales, this is one of the worst places, you hear nothing but negativity, right? Oh my gosh, you hear nothing about, like, these people that are not successful. They're like, oh, it's because of this thing, because of that thing, because of this thing, this is why I'm not. So just to take a minute, take some time to sort of just meditate and really focus in on why you're doing what you're doing. At least for me, that's really helped me kind of separate the gap.
and to piggyback off of that, that works great.
Yeah.
Another one that a lot of people, I mean, different people that I know that we would do in a circle is music. Who doesn't have their own like playlist, like your anthem, like songs. And there would be, every time the first of the month, there used to be a group thread that we used to all send, and it was all top performers. And what song we always played was The First of the Month by Bone Thugs and Harmony. And everybody, it would be a challenge to whoever was the first one to send it in our group.
You'd be the one that's sending it at midnight, weren't you?
On the day, that would be cheating. But, like, whoever was the first one to do it, so, and it was one of those things, like, and then everybody would get pumped up for the month and different things. And everybody had, like, a theme song, like, that you would get to. There's, you know, Blake would always send me a new song, like, hey, listen to this morning, and it gets you in that confidence zone, that motivation, and we do it too, and piggyback off of each other. And I feel like music is another big way where you can get the day rolling and get things going.
And what all this shares in common, I think it's clearing distractions and helping you focus on execution, right? So
correct.
I think that's the biggest takeaway that I'm getting from all this: music, meditation, and all that good stuff.
I know for me, when I was introduced to keeping your goals in front of you, so maybe it's a journal or a little notepad, but being able to constantly remind yourself of, hey, what's your short-term goals, what's your long-term goals. The reason I'm known for the whole motivation thing is, hey, there's a quote of the day, right, that can help me gain some perspective just maybe for that day.
Yeah.
So I constantly try to push out quotes, but those quotes are first for me, right? Where it helps me kind of focus in for the day, or maybe have a theme for the day, right? But things that I'm putting on paper that helps me for 15 minutes, right? Can kind of give your day some direction. Yanni, what you hit on, just content, right? Part of why we're doing this. There's part of what helps you grow as a person is when you're introduced to new perspectives. But there's a lot of content out there, right? You filter out the ones that will appeal to you. So that's another big thing that I think for sure you guys will receive from this. But being able to view content on a daily basis or for sure weekly basis, the combination of those things motivates me the most.
So speaking of the writing down your goals, like I remember when when we were working side by side, he was doing this not just once a month, not once a week, doing this every single day. Yeah. Right, so I think that's something that needs to be reiterated. It's
and you write you write your small successes too. Yeah. Right, and it could be anything. It could be anything, but something that helps you remind yourself that, hey, you got it. You don't celebrate. It's not celebrating these wins. Yeah. But it's reminding you that, hey, you can keep track of short-term wins.
Marco writes down, I got this girl's number.
Yes. Just the first digit.
It's the first digit.
Oh man.
No, hey, speaking of small ones, I do want to add something to this guy with the jokes all the time. Yeah, he's been shooting.
He goes, no, he said small big.
Got 1 of 10 numbers.
I went to the Starbucks. The lady smiled at me.
Oh my God. 9 more to go.
Hey,
That's a good
Hey,
one.
smiles.
Go for the smiles.
Go for smiles.
Go for smiles.
No, that's a good one. No, real talk though. Speaking of
Yeah,
small
that's so
wins, it's like, hey,
hilarious.
we provide refreshments for our clients, and I remember when I first started out. I think you remember this too. But hey, if you can't close them on a drink or a coffee,
Oh,
You're
man.
done.
you're done. Right? You got to close them
They're
within
like-
the first 2 minutes. You got to close them. And I don't care if they didn't want coffee or if they didn't want. I'm closing you on a drink in the first 2 minutes.
He's like, I'm getting a win.
I'm
today,
getting a win.
regardless.
I'm telling you, it's
I'm getting a
important.
yes.
I'm getting a yes,
I
right?
know some no's are about to come. Let me get one
Let's
yes.
get- right, and it's like we used to. I don't know if you remember this, but we used to say, all right, we're selling this. First thing we're selling is either we used to have like this fancy little Coke machine. All right, we're selling them. Let's say Mellow Yellow, right? Between the two of us, the first person that sold Mellow Yellow, right, as a
was
small win was
keeping
was
tabs.
Yeah, keeping tabs on who's creating these small
Mellow
wins.
yellow. I haven't heard that.
Exactly. That's the point that I'm trying to make, right? So whatever the drink is, whatever that small thing is, like hey, coffee, Coke,
That's
whatever.
Tom's drink of choice. Mellow
No,
Yellow.
no, it ain't. No, it ain't. No,
Mellow
shout out
Yellow.
to Mellow Yellow, but it was
Man.
just, it was weird.
Yeah,
man,
but just
we
just
had
remind
fun with
yourself
it, man.
of the small wins and
Small
the big wins.
Yeah.
for sure.
So we'll close this out here, but I think the main theme has been with motivation. You have to be proactive. Like, you cannot wait to be motivated because again,
Come to you.
there'll be days that you wake up and it's just like, man, this is good, but not every day. But so you have to, I think, proactively find ways to get motivated or how you're gonna get motivated. So.
Yes.
Like from that's everything that you guys have said. I love the video journal was
Love that one.
amazing
That's
because
a good one.
I hate